All right, happy Friday. Welcome back. Concepts and training, diving into strength speed this week. One of our 4 physiological adaptations, being able to sit there and understand what we're looking at when we start to develop a little bit more force, right? So when we look back at our little force velocity curve, and hopefully the glare is going to clear up for me here. There we go, right? So being able to understand, right? We have speed is our fastest adaptation. We're able to move at maximum velocity. We have speed strength kind of in this secondary little zone. Speed strength is the ability to produce minimal amounts of force at a high velocity. We're not going to be at max velocity, but we're able to express force quickly, right? I like to think of this as like sprinters, wide receivers, right? Because wide receivers got to make all those cuts. They got to handle the external forces, okay? Then we start to get back into here, right? To kind of keep with the football analogy, strength, speed, right? Well, all of a sudden we're looking at producing more force at a high velocity. It's still got a high rate of force development, but it's not going to move that fast, right? So all of a sudden we're looking probably in like your 1 to 2 meters a second, maybe 1 to 2.5 meters a second. We're still producing a high force and high loads. I like to think of this, right? If we can give a couple different analogies for this. Speed is your sprint, right? Your speed strength is like your broad jump, or it's like a box jump. Then all of a sudden we start to look at, all right, maybe some strength speed. Now we're looking at your snatches, like power snatches and power cleans. And then we'll talk about absolute strength when we talk about like kind of power lifts and absolute force development. If we look at this in like position specific for sports, well, we might have your sprinter, right? And then we're going to use the analogy for American football. All of a sudden we've got our like wide receivers and cornerbacks. Then we got our linebackers, and when we talk about absolute strength, we'll talk about our linemen, right? When we start to look at those adaptations, we're really looking at a velocity range of probably like 1 to 2.5 meters a second on strength speed. But then we're also sitting there and looking at really producing more force. If we look at percentage zones, a lot of times we look probably in that 50 to 75% range, right? And so we're gonna move faster. We still have a fairly high force production, even though it's not absolute, like the max amount that we can produce, but we're producing it in a manner that is going to allow us to develop a quality where it's able to happen at a very fast rate. Like I said, you know, that speed is more your sprints. Your speed strength is more of like your box jumps, broad jumps, you know, maybe some med ball work. Your strength speed is then going to be like your Olympic lifts, your power cleans, maybe your trap bar jumps, stuff like that. And that's even a different topic we can get into later on those different movements. But understanding that strength speed is going to be that influence, okay? So we have those adaptations, like we're still sitting along this force velocity curve where we've got more speed and more velocity. We're coming down our x-axis, we got more force. So our speed, strength, speed, working in those different zones. The more we spend time in those zones, the more we get a full range of physiological capabilities. It's going to allow us to perform. Even if you're an adult and you're just looking at general fitness, what we're looking at is actually just the ability to be functional and be able to move and have an increased work capacity and being able to handle different demands, right? So that's kind of that brief overview of strength speed, being able to move at a less forceful production than absolute strength, but still being able to move fairly quickly. Obviously, you're not moving as fast as some of those things like your broad jumps and your box jumps. Like I said, that strength speed is going to be more like your Olympic lifts, power cleans, snatches, stuff like that. But it allows us to develop that physiological adaptation where we develop some level of force or like a higher level of force, but still moving fairly quickly. So that's a brief overview of strength speed. And then our next video and our last one to kind of wrap it all up, we'll talk about absolute strength.